All right. Hello and welcome to the Lunchtime Livestream. It's good to see everybody here. How you doing, Rob?
Hello, how you doing?
I'm doing good, man. Doing good. I wish people could see what happens behind the scenes, like when this stuff is going on. Right now, I am hobbling through my house, like literally hobbling through the house. Um, for people who didn't see me on Sunday, the reason you didn't see me is because I messed my knee up over the weekend. And so I'm kind of like this like gimpy guy walking around my house right now. And when we started the 2-minute countdown for the podcast, I got up and went to get a cup of coffee, and I was at the I don't know. Let's just say I had to count on my Keurig to get done in less than 2 minutes. I literally sat down at this desk with 2 seconds left on the countdown. So
Nice.
if anybody's curious how long it takes to grab a K-cup, pour some cream in your coffee, and stick it under the Keurig thing, you're looking at a 2-minute time span there. So
Perfect.
that was how I started this whole thing off. How about you, Rob? I know you had to disappear for a couple minutes too. What did you go do?
Yeah, I went and got a carbonated orange drink. Terrible for you. Don't drink.
What is it called? Put that in the camera for a second. What is that? Orangeette? I don't think I've ever heard of that. Where'd you get that?
I'm telling you, it's terrible for you. I don't even want to read the back of it.
Where did you get it?
We got a bunch of just like off-brand drinks for our Christmas party for youth group, and we didn't drink them all, so I brought them home. And I just kind of been sipping on them over the past couple months.
That's awesome.
It's just like, I think this is the only time I drink it is during the lunchtime live stream.
Well, there you go. This is your special Orangeette moment for the week then.
It doesn't taste that good. I don't recommend it.
It's all good, man. It's all good.
Definitely
well, hey,
Fanta if you're going to do it.
What's that?
Definitely go Fanta if you're going to get orange.
And go Fanta. My wife would say Sunkissed.
That too.
So I think that's the one she likes. But anyways, a couple announcements before we get going. For everybody who's on here right now, thank you for tuning in to the live stream. Community group signups have started for the church. You can sign up online or in person on Sunday. If you need more information about community groups this year, David Kibler is running with those, so contact him to get more information. Another really exciting thing that we're going to be doing on February 13th is Indestructible Marriage, Catalyst Marriage Ministry kickoff. This is something we've been planning for over a year. But when COVID happened, it kind of derailed us a few months and we weren't able to really get it started when we wanted to. But I want to show you guys who are on here right now who might be interested in being a part of that, just how you can actually get on there and see this. It's going to be really easy. You're just going to go on over to catalystchristian.net.com.org. We own them all. That was intentional. But go on over there and click on the Register for Events tab. When you do that, there'll be a page that comes up where you can see Indestructible Marriage as your option here. Click on that. Right now, obviously, we don't have a lot of events going on with COVID and everything. So, but click on there. And you'll see here in the description, you'll see details about the day, the schedule for it. A big thing I want to highlight down here at the bottom, I'm going to make this full screen so you guys can see it a little bit better. But if you come over here and you highlight this, be sure to only register one person when signing up. This is a couple's rate. It's not per person. It's not $25 a person. It's $25 a couple. So if you're signing up, you only need to sign up one person, and that is your couple's rate. So you'll do that. And then also, if you'll notice, if you have kids, it's going to be $5 a child for childcare. If you have more than 2 kids, it's only going to be $10 total. We don't want to make this, we don't want to price this to a point where people can't come. But we definitely want to be able to pay our childcare workers and the people who are going to be there to take care of the kids. If you've used Catalyst online giving, then when you pay, you should be able to use the form of payment that you've used to do giving in the past. If you haven't, you'll need to set up something for that. We're not going to be doing live signups. There will not be a sign-up sheet at the church. The only signups we're going to be doing are online. Also, if you can't be there live, there is an online registration that's $10 cheaper because you won't have to pay for food. That's just going to cover the cost of holding the event and the materials for that. Any questions about any of this, you can contact me at jkelly@catalystchristian.net, and I will do my best to get you all the information you need so that you know what's going on with that. So let's pull that off of there and let's get Rob back up here and let's get to what we're here to talk about today, Rob.
Sounds good.
We're here to talk about the series that we started just a couple weeks ago, the countercultural marriage. And the reason it's countercultural is because we live in a society where marriage has kind of been undervalued. It's not something people think is as important as they used to. And so, Rob,
Yes.
let's talk a little bit about Sunday. Let's talk about Dave's message from Sunday. Are you there?
Yes.
I don't know what's going on. Hang on a second.
You're skipping on my
Okay,
screen a
are we
little.
back? Okay, are we back now? I think we had a little bit of a glitch there. Are we good now?
Yeah, it's good now.
Okay, there we go. Sorry about that. The internet must have cut or glitched or something. But let's talk about this past week's message. As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. That was the title of the sermon, and the main thing was successful marriages are built on the successful foundation of commitment. So I want to kick today's talk off with a question for everybody online. Why is commitment so hard for people in 2021? And I'm not asking why is commitment hard for you. I'm asking why is commitment hard for people as a whole? And it doesn't even have to be with marriage. Why is it just hard for people to commit to things? Rob, I want to turn that question to you and kind of get your thoughts on that.
I think it's because people have options now. Every year, as we continue, you have more information and more options. So it's harder to choose. This could be outside of marriage or just anything in general. Before you used to have one or two products. Now you have unlimited, and you can go and create your own product if you want. So there's all sorts of different opportunities for people now. So it's hard for people to choose. And I think that's bleeding over into relationships. I don't think it started with relationships. I think it started with people having a hard time to make choices in their life because of all the information that's coming at them at a very rapid pace. What do you think, John?
I kind of agree with what you're saying. And I would also say that by committing to something, you are giving a promise.
Okay.
And I think we live in a society where more than ever, people are afraid to fail. I think people are afraid to not follow through on things. So instead of committing to it, they just don't. Because, well, then I don't have to worry about failing. I don't have to worry about letting anybody down. If I avoid the situation, I can't let them down.
Yeah.
And but the reality of that is that's so backwards. Not committing and not holding on to your promises, not giving people the opportunity to trust you is very dangerous. It's very dangerous. I think people really struggle with the idea of being disliked. I think it's something people really struggle with. Daryl's saying you need to turn your volume up just a little bit.
Turn your TV up, Daryl.
But my thought is that a lot of it has to do with just the simple fact that people do not want to let people down. I mean, you look at you and I've talked about social media.
Yeah.
People want thumbs up. They want upvotes. They want, if it's Reddit, they want an upvote. If it's Facebook, they want likes. If it's Instagram, they want the heart. It's like everybody wants to be appreciated. They want to be told that they're good. They want to be told that they're great. But they're afraid to commit to anything because if they do, they may not get that. At least that's something I'm seeing more and more. I don't know if that's necessarily everybody.
I think the other side is also difficult. So we've seen, just news. If you look at news stations in general, if you fail, they put that everywhere. And
Yep.
that's the stuff that gets the most attention. Negative stuff when it comes to social media is the biggest news out there. Like, why would they share positive things in the news? Because people don't care about positive things. They care about drama, and they care about uh, people failing, which is which is terrible to think about. Um, it's gone past just understanding what's going on in the world. It's gone into going into people's personal lives like a heavy thing, and now we have smartphones at our fingertips where uh, people don't have boundaries with that, and then their life gets on the internet, and anybody can take a photo of you and be their own news source and share what their opinion about you. And now we have things like Yelp, where if you have a business, any silly person can share their opinion about your business. And so I get why people don't want to make commitments, or like, if you make one mistake, you're done.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's no good. I think we live in a society that lives in fear because we live in a graceless society.
Yeah.
You know, we live in a graceless society. A Facebook user, I'm not sure who this is. I'm gonna jump over on Facebook on my computer to find out who this is, but says people love other people's dirty laundry. And that is so true. People really love other people's dirty laundry.
Yes.
And it's sad that it's that way. That's Kim Allen. That's Kim Allen who
Okay.
posted that. Julio says, sadly, people like to see people fail instead of succeeding. And that is 100% true.
Yeah.
Lisa Sarah, I think commitment is hard because people aren't sure what they're committing to will be a solid, a constant, or will be there later on. And we're going to get to that in a little bit, because that's actually something I want to talk about a little bit later. And then commitment is also concrete. No jumping around from thing to thing or person to person. In a culture of constantly changing and fast-paced, why settle down? There's science in having slower-paced TV shows for children.
Yep.
I love that last part, because there is science in that. It's man, like you said, there's so many choices. People are afraid to mess up, and we live in a society that has no grace. You look at the political landscape, and if you made a mistake 25 years ago, it's as though you made it yesterday. I mean, let's be honest. Are you the same person you were 10 years ago?
No, I was
No.
not. I'm not.
I'm not either. I'm not the same person I was 5 years ago. I've only been married 7, and I can tell you, people who've known me for years will tell you, Rhea has changed me for the good in a lot of things. You know, it's a reason I married that woman. But yeah, it just seems like there's so many people who can't give grace, and if you can't give grace, then you're very cautious on throwing a commitment out there, because you're opening yourself up for that lack of grace. Dave, in his sermon, and we're going to talk through kind of some of his talking points in that, but he said marriage begins when a husband and wife commit to each other. What do you think about that?
Yeah, he said, I think it was a little step further. It was when they commit to each other in front of the Lord. That's when, like, you become husband and wife. So there's this third party to that, because commitment on an earthly level, I mean, you want to make sure that your yes is yes and your no is no. Like, that's just a thing so that you don't lose integrity. But when it comes to entering into a commitment or a contract with somebody else that involves our Creator, there is a little bit more weight to that, it seems like. And I like that he also brought up that there are people that consider themselves husband and wife that aren't actually husband and wife, because they never actually began their commitment with each other.
Mm-hmm.
And
Well, you think cohabitation is kind of a big deal right now. Like, that's what people want to do.
Yeah,
They
he
want to
brought that up too.
cohabitate. Yeah, they don't necessarily want to be married, because in marriage there is that commitment.
Yeah.
There's an easy escape. Um, Kim Allen says, I think to that, commitments don't mean what they used to. Divorce is too easy to get. Women don't have to commit to having a baby when abortions are encouraged. Basically, if there's something you got yourself into you don't want to be in, you can get out of it. There's no living with your choices. And that's a dangerous place to be in. Julio says this goes along with relationships as well. I know a family who would rather you be failing than successful, especially when you openly expose and promote when you're openly exposed in promoting your faith. I know families like that too. I know families where they don't want their kids involved in faith. They don't, and they'll buy them beer for a party, but they won't pay for them to go on a mission trip. I mean, that's a little confusing, but that is something that I have seen personally. Um, so let's go a little bit further with this commitment thing. Obviously it starts when we commit to each other. It starts when we make those verbal I do's and we do it in front of others. And there are witnesses there to see, okay, if in front of them, in front of God, we have made this commitment and we are 100% together. And the kicker being till death do us part. But it says marriage commitment is total and timeless. And Dave hit this one pretty hard. He went to the scripture in Mark where he said, for this reason, a man will leave his father and mother and be united to his wife, and the two will become one flesh. So they're no longer two, but one flesh. Marriage commitment is total and timeless. Rob, what's your thoughts on that statement?
Yeah, I didn't know where he was going to go with that. I mean, I agree with the statement, but he shared that story with the couple that he was counseling and how they never really began their marriage because everything was separate. They had the separate bank accounts. They slept in separate beds. They didn't eat dinner together. They didn't have family time together. They actually scheduled time for that not to happen. And they never like completely left. I mean, you could say left their father and mother is it can be a general term of just leaving, being connected to somebody else and coming together to create one thing together.
Yeah, he said they were basically two single people living under the same house.
Yeah.
Under the same roof was basically what it was. They never quit being single.
Yeah.
And so that was, I remember that story very well. And that's a huge deal. They didn't have the same bank account. They slept in different rooms.
Yeah.
They took turns taking the kids out to eat. I mean, it was just like, at what point do you realize we're not even married? Like, getting a divorce at that point is not really a divorce. You were divorced a long time ago.
Yeah, or never married in the first place.
Yeah, never married in the first place. Shannon Presley says, this series doesn't apply to me, but I'm so afraid of letting someone down just in life in general. I often stretch myself so thin that I become overwhelmed. I'm very cautious of certain commitments. I totally get that. And I think being cautious of commitments, not a bad thing. But I think it's when you refuse to ever commit to anything is where the problem comes in. And I know Shannon well enough that when she commits, she follows through. So
yeah, she does.
And Shannon, as far as the series goes, it's for everyone, because this doesn't just relate with marriage. This even relates with our relationship with Christ, because everything that we do in a marriage should emulate that relationship. And so the idea of commitment, when we make a commitment to Christ, it's the same thing. It really is. April Price, roommates. That's how my ex-husband and I were. Obviously, it didn't work. Yeah. Being roommates is not the same as being married. It's a great statement.
No, and I think a lot of marriages in the beginning, like first year, it's hard because like you had roommates before you were married.
Right.
You had a lot of roommates, and I had
I
think 3 or 4 different roommates before Kaylee and I were married, and all those roommates, we had a different dynamic. And that first 4 to 6 months was really tough because my wife is not a roommate, and navigating that is tough. And I know a lot of young couples look back at their first year of marriage and they're like, well, that was probably the toughest year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it just depends. I think a lot of it too depends just on where you are in a relationship. I want to start off, before I even talk about this anymore, Um, I want to brag on my wife. Can I do that? Since we're talking about marriage, I kind of want to brag on my wife a little bit. She is like a trooper of all troopers. You know, like with everything we talked about earlier with my leg, she's kind of had to step it up and do extra because I just can't be on my feet as much. And so I can't do a lot of things that I would normally be doing. And as a result of that, um, she's been working really hard to keep the house together because we got a 2 and a 3-year-old, soon to be a 3 and a 3-year-old. Think about that one for a second. A 3 and a 3-year-old. And there's just some craziness that goes on in the house when the kids are that age. And she's really pulled it together for us. And there's an ebb and flow with our relationship. When she had COVID, I had to step up and I had to take care of things. And when I had COVID back in February of last year, she had to step up for me. And when different things have happened to us, she struggles with migraines. And there are times when she has her migraines that I have to step it up and take care of the kids so she can just go lay down in complete darkness and silence. Where I'll put on a movie that I know the kids will sit and watch because it's the only time we can get them to not scream and yell and sing and jump and laugh and giggle and keep the house quiet. Um, but you figure these things out, and that's the joy of commitment. And I think that's something. It seems like when you talk about commitment, it comes off as a negative, but commitment is one of the greatest things in the world. And by being committed to this awesome woman, I know what the give and take looks like. I know what it means because I'm fully committed in this relationship. Um, I know that when the need comes and she needs me, I'm going to step up. And I know when the need comes and she needs me, she's going to, or when I need her, she's going to step up. And I don't have to question it because we committed to that and we take our commitment seriously. And so I want to make sure people understand, like, commitment is not a negative. Commitment is very much a positive. It's very much something that um, we should embrace, absolutely embrace, especially when it comes to marriage. Um, Dave went on and talked about 3 practices of Christian homes, and I think that we're going to get a lot of discussion out of this section right here. But the very first thing he talks about is it prioritizes building trust. Why do you think that's the first thing, Rob?
Prioritizing building trust. All relationships, the relationship will only go as deep as how much you trust that person.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's your marriage, whether it's your relationship with your friends, the people in your community group, your church family, or even the mailman that you might wave to. There is a degree of trust in each one of those, and they're all different.
Mm-hmm.
And in order to engage in anybody, there has to be some sort of degree in trust. And depending on how close you get to that person is determining on the trust factor. So if you trust somebody less, you won't spend as much time or get as near to that person because you're opening yourself up for failure.
Yeah.
And marriage is, if you want success and closeness, there has to be trust, because where there is no trust, there's questioning, and where there's questioning, there's distrust, which opens up a lot of hard conversations. That's where a lot of fights and arguments start, is in the distrust, in the gray areas. And the more trust you have, you don't have to worry about stuff. Like
Mm-hmm.
it removes the worry, which is so, worry is annoying, and people have been worrying a lot recently. So if you can imagine a
Yes.
relationship where you don't have to worry about the other person,
Yeah.
there's
No,
a lot of freedom in that.
yeah. When you were saying that, it made me think of something I was taught a long time ago when it comes to marriage, and that's to always assume the best.
Yes.
You want to see a couple that trusts each other. When something goes sideways, if they assume the best out of their spouse, you know that's a couple that trusts each other. That is a huge signifier of a couple that trusts each other. We had a few comments going through here. Ringo, he said, it was hard for me to look past just a piece of paper and not a relationship with my significant other in God. Interesting. And Renee says, David and I both work really long hours. My record is 40 hours straight, and I know he will be there and our children will be cared for. Yeah, that's trust. Big time trust. Yes, you'll isolate yourself from them when you don't trust them to protect yourself. 100% truth. 100% truth there. But well, wait, so we got one more comment here. I've got too much to do to worry about what David is doing. Trust is key. Now that is okay. That is a great statement. I'm going to bring that back up. Actually, I've got too much to do to worry about what David is doing. Trust is key. Yeah. If you really trust someone, you worry a whole lot less. Yeah. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah.
Yeah. If you really trust somebody, there's a lot less worry. Just that's all there is to it. I know if I'm going to be gone for a weekend backpacking, I don't sit there and worry, is Rhea going to feed the kids? Is Rhea going to make sure they go to bed? Is she going to make sure the house is clean? I don't worry about that stuff. It's not necessary to worry about. Like, I just trust that when I get back, everything's going to be fine. And if she ever gets to go to Honduras, like we've been planning for, feels like 3 years now, COVID has messed that up. When she finally gets to go, hopefully in the spring some point, she could feel the same way when she's there, that everything will be taken care of and the kids will be fine. Because we have a level of trust for each other. Laura Baxter says, first of all, your wife pretty much rocks, but staying committed, you see each other, marriage or friendships, in the really good and the really bad. Staying committed only deepens that relationship to the point where, you know, when things happen, they know you so well, you don't have to second guess who's going to be there for you. That's 100% true.
Yes. And
she's right. My wife does rock. But yeah, so let's continue on with this trust thing. Dave said in Proverbs, well, Dave didn't say this, he read from Proverbs 3:5-6, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to him and he will make your paths straight. So I want to ask the question, can you have commitment without trust? Is it possible to commit to somebody when you don't trust them? And so if you're online, I want to know what you guys think about that question. Is it possible? Rob, what do you think? Is it possible to commit to somebody without trust?
The only way is if you're in complete control.
Okay, keep going.
That's the only way. Most people believe that if they are in control, then the best scenario will come out. I mean, this can go into leadership tactics and further. But just like a church, or let's talk about it outside of marriage, but a church organization. If Dave had us three, me, you, and Jenny as staff, but he did everything, the Catalyst would not be the best that it could be.
Right.
Because he couldn't do all of our jobs. There's not enough time in the day. I think.
Can you imagine Dave as a children's minister? I just want to throw that out there. Let's just throw that out there. Dave is a children's minister. I think what little bit of hair he's got left would be gone.
That's not his strong suit. It's like if I did everything and I had to get up there and sing, probably wouldn't be great.
Rob the worship minister.
No, that's not. That's not a thing. Now, I think all of those things would be done pretty well, but they wouldn't be great.
Right.
In order to continue on to make something great, there has to be some sort of trust. And whenever people ask, well, how do I know if I need to trust somebody? The answer is, well, go ahead and trust them and see if you can trust them.
Yeah.
And you have to take that for, there's no test that you can take. There's not an online form that you can go in and like answer A, B, or C, and then you get a trust grade at the end. The only way that you'll know if you can trust somebody is you trust them and see if it works out.
Exactly.
You'll know quickly.
Yeah. Daryl Jordan said, Dave is a children's minister? LOL. Yeah, right. I think if you asked Dave, he would say the exact same thing, Daryl. like 100% would say the exact same thing. Um, for me, I don't know how it's possible to be committed to somebody I don't trust. I've worked in churches where I didn't trust the leadership, and I ended up leaving because I couldn't stay committed to that because I didn't believe in the mission. I didn't believe in where the direction was going. And I mean, a few short years later, one of these churches actually split. You know, and there was just craziness going on. So I don't know that I don't think commitment's real commitment. I think you can give a mild commitment, but not real commitment if you don't trust. Um, Lisa Sarah says 100% nope. I like that. Nope. If I didn't trust Ian to be able to lead our family, take care of us, etc., I wouldn't have married him. That's good. If I didn't trust that he was going to be a good father, we wouldn't have grown our family and brought Jovi into this world. I love that. That's 100% true. Uh, if you can't trust your spouse, it's really hard to commit. Daryl Jordan, 100. And April Price, it would not be enjoyable. That is the truth. Being committed to someone you trust there is absolutely no joy in that. No joy at all. Rob, have you ever seen, obviously I'm not going to ask for names or anything, but like, have you ever experienced couples who are just don't trust each other at all?
Yes. Yes.
What's that like?
I don't want to be around them.
Fair
It's
enough.
exhausting. It's like there's so many conversations that you don't ever have to have. Like you don't have when people don't trust each other, they're always asking, like, I wonder what they're doing right now. Or do you think that they're doing this? And they start like asking opinions of their spouse to you.
Yeah, that comes back to always assume the best.
Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
I don't care. I don't know. Like that's not my responsibility.
Yeah.
And then it also is bad because then it hurts you and that person's relationship as well.
Right. Right.
It really does
Yeah,
bleed over. If you don't have trust within your marriage, it can really bleed out into your other relationships.
Yeah. Ringo said this goes along with always being right in a relationship, and I can tell you that will not work out. 100%. I think we talked about that a little last week. The idea of it's not a battlefield; we're on the same team, and yeah, you gotta be real careful with that. Renee Basham said, "Yes, it's exhausting watching them work smarter, not harder. I don't have to do it all when I trust." Yes, 100%. I think there can be surface level commitment to the relationship, but not the person. But long term, that can't last. Yeah, can't last. It won't last. I don't think it just won't. It will eventually break down every time.
Yeah.
Every time.
But it depends on what the goal is for the relationship as well. Now, when we're talking
Okay.
about marriage, I think some people, when it comes to marriage, their goal is not this like deep, intimate relationship. And they
Okay.
think when they don't have that, because it might be because they have a wrong view of marriage. Their parents didn't have a great marriage. They just never experienced what a good marriage could be. And that could also put in some factors as well, because people might think they're committed, but they're really not. The worst thing that you can do for yourself is believe something that as 100% fact when it's not real, when it's not right.
Oh yeah, when you assume something and you've already got it in your head that that's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think in marriage, I think that's a big factor is even with commitment, people think they're committed. But they never took that first step because they didn't know. And I think I've seen that more because I think I've seen that turn into unhealthy relationships more than there was like distrust from the beginning. If
Yeah,
that makes sense.
it does. Ringo asked a good question. Would this be like micromanaging a relationship? Absolutely. You don't have to micromanage a relationship if you trust each other. I don't I don't sit and give my wife commands of things that she needs to do. I don't need to. I trust her to do her part, and she trusts me to do my part. And now that doesn't mean there aren't times we remind each other. There are mornings when I get going and Rhea goes, "Hey, you know that whole lunch thing you're supposed to get ready for the kids?" And I just went, "Oh yeah," and then I'll go do it. But that's not distrust. That's just we all need reminders every once in a while when we're supposed to do things. But that doesn't mean that all of a sudden she's like, well, he'll never get breakfast or he'll never get lunch ready for the kids. Like that's not what happens because of that. Uh, because that trust is there.
Yeah.
I want to move on to the next thing that Dave talked about, and that's the fact that couples who are in a Christian home, they practice worshiping together. How many couples do you know, Rob, in your lifetime where the husband or the wife goes to church but the other person doesn't?
Not as many as I would think.
Mm-hmm.
I think there is a quite a few that
Yeah.
I would say the majority actually go to church together.
Yeah. Okay.
I would say that if the couple doesn't go to church together, they don't end up staying at the church for very long, and then obviously that relationship gets severed a little bit.
Right. Right. I agree with you on that. That seems to happen quite a bit. You see most times good couples they're going to be in worship together. But every once in a while you see couples where the husband comes, the wife doesn't, or the wife comes and the husband doesn't. And that doesn't always foster the healthiest situation in that marriage.
Yeah.
And so how do you get it to where that marriage is healthier? The best way to do that is to be worshiping together as a couple. But I want to take it past worship. I want to take it to serves together.
Yeah.
Because I think a couple that serves together really grows closer. Think about when you have been on, I don't know if you've done any mission trips or service projects or anything like that, Rob, but any mission trip I've ever done, by the end of the week, that group is so tight. You know, they're just so together. And it's because they have this common thing they did, this common thing they accomplished. And it's one of the byproducts of serving together. It's one of the byproducts of that. And so, we're having all kinds of fun today, aren't we?
Yep.
It's, it's one of those byproducts of serving together is it increases the relationship and it increases the closeness. And I want to say that when it comes to marriage, couples that serve together are going to grow closer together.
I agree.
Couples that really come together are going to find themselves longing to do more together. What's your thoughts on all that?
Yeah, I agree. So, a great a great example of that is whenever I started going to the church, and Kaylee and I were dating at the time. What really helped our relationship was serving together. She was involved in the children's ministry at the church, and she invited me to come serve with her. And that was like the best thing for our relationship. It was great.
Gotcha. Yeah, before Rhea and I got married, we actually did a mission trip to West Virginia together. And we had actually done another mission trip a few years before that. We went on, it was so fun. We went on a mission trip with the youth group. This is before, you were there. We were still at the old building. Casey Kibler, Josh Tipton, and one other guy were all getting ready to be freshmen in high school. If that doesn't date this whole thing,
It's a while ago.
It was a while back, but we drove them to South Dakota. So we're talking 30 plus hours of driving. And we got to serve together. The two of us did. We got the opportunity to spend time together serving as friends. Like, and so that brought our friendship closer together. Well,
Yeah.
then in 2014, we got engaged and we did a mission trip together in West Virginia with a bunch of other people from the church. And it just brought us even closer together. And anytime we've had an opportunity to serve together like that, it's amazing what that's done for our relationship. Uh, Getting gifts together for Christmas stuff for people, uh, doing the Thanksgiving things. We got to deliver Thanksgiving meals one year together, and it was awesome. Now we kind of back off a little because we have so many more opportunities than most people to serve that we
Yeah.
don't like to take the opportunities from other people, and it wouldn't matter anyways because we can't get there quick enough to sign up because everybody signs up real quick.
Yeah.
But you know, just those service moments, those times when we've been able to work together have been um, priceless for our relationship.
Yeah.
Ringo says, more than you could imagine. I know several that would not go and just trickles down to both just not do any church activities. Yeah, that happens a lot within relationships. Uh, Julio says, well, for Jess and I, we are good at worshiping separately, but we are better together when worshiping or any task we do. I feel close when we are actively serving together. 100%. If I could type the 100 emoji in right now, I would do it 100 times over because there's just something about doing your faith together with your spouse that uh, is priceless. I'm going to ask the question, how can you and your spouse serve together? Rob, I know how you and your spouse are getting ready to serve together. You guys are getting ready to plant a church, and you got a lot of opportunities coming your way here,
I
here
mean,
real soon.
yeah. Yeah. Well, we've always served together. Like she was involved with the youth ministry before we had Christopher, and she was involved when I was in charge of children's. She was very active in that. She would go on every youth trip with us. Very, very, very devoted to serving together, and I
Well,
always
that started in high school though with you guys, because I remember when you were in high school and the two of you would come and do day camps and stuff together
yeah.
at Bluegrass Christian Camp. So you guys have been doing that, gosh, man, way, way early in your relationship.
Oh yeah. When we were 16 years old, we started serving together, and I remember there was a conversation where we started getting more volunteers, and more volunteers were going on these trips. And Kaylee asked, "Well, why am I even going?" Like, because she felt like she wasn't really needed for um, like everything. Everything was just covered. Trips became easier
Mhm.
as you continue to do ministry, and it was kind of different for her. And I told her that everything is better when we do ministry together.
Right.
I don't have to worry about anything. I don't have that idea that I miss my wife. It's because she's right there with me. There's just so many things that uh, there's no stress involved. Um, it's because we're doing what we're supposed to do together,
Yeah.
and that's like that that made ministry so much easier. If your wife is involved, uh, it just makes everything better.
It really does. Renee Basham said you can stuff and deliver 1,000 eggs. Just as a quick promo for her ministry that she does. She uh, she does Easter eggs for Easter
Great.
time to take to people's homes. So if you're interested in being a part of that, Renee is in the chat. Go talk to her. She would love to get you involved in that. So
Stuffing pigs.
nice little commercial there, Renee. That was nice. And then Daryl Jordan says it's very frustrating when I think he meant to say can't worship together. It's very frustrating when you can't worship together. We made some major changes with church because we were not able to attend worship service together. Ian and I served at Bluegrass Christian Camp together in youth ministry as youth sponsors, as heavily involved members of the worship team and upcoming Elevate Christian Church. Shameless plug. I love serving with my husband and getting to experience things together. Yeah, it's really, it's amazing what that does for a relationship when it's not just about attending church together, but it's actually serving in the church together. And sometimes it's not even serving in the church, it's serving outside the church. Find things in the community that you can do together as a couple. Maybe you've got an older couple on your street that could use your help, and you and your family mow their yard, shovel their snow, maybe clean their house from time to time. those kinds of things are just huge opportunities. You see a single mom who's struggling to get her kids to dance class, or I say dance class because my daughter needed a ride to get to dance class today because I can't climb in and out of my truck. Um, but you've got, there are just things people need, and you can step up and really be of service to people. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a church thing. You don't have to teach a Sunday school class or serve in that capacity. There's so many things right in front of our faces every day. We just have to look for them. A couple more comments. Kids too, whole new level when you add in kids. That is actually 100% true. 100% true, because man, once you bring kids into the thing, I know when you had Christopher, Kaylee kind of had to step out of youth ministry.
Yeah.
The time just wasn't there. It just wasn't there, and so it just seems like the thing about the marriage commitment, since that's what we're talking about, commitment, is that it's constantly evolving and changing and growing. And it's like you start out and everything is together and we do everything together and all of this, and then kids come. And now, well, if I'm going to do this, she's got to watch the kids. But if she wants to do this, then I'll watch the kids. Or if we want to do it together, we got to find babysitters. And so you've got this this ebb and flow of how do you navigate these waters now that there are tiny humans involved?
Yep.
And then Laura Baxter said, "I love seeing couples who've been married a long time. Mentoring younger couples moving to the field or those who are preparing to get married on the mission field here." That's really cool. I know one of the things, this is an interesting thing. It's a side note. Laura, when she first went to the mission field, was gearing up to do ministry to women coming out of the sex trade and basically human slavery. And while that was going on, she went over to Honduras, and it didn't work out that those were the things that she'd end up doing. God just kind of grabbed her and said, "Here's what I want you to do." And now she is working pretty heavily with missionary families, specifically kids, and working with them. So I'm sure that being able to see how God is working through those couples and mentoring younger couples who are wanting to go into missions is pretty awesome. The last thing that Dave talked about, because we got about 10 minutes left here, the last thing Dave talked about was makes God's name great. Makes God's name great. Rob, when you see that as the third one of these practices of a Christian home, what does it make you think of?
I love it because the marriage is an example of the relationship that we should have with the church. There's a lot of similarities and a lot of things that you will cross over if you have a good relationship with your spouse. Your relationship with the bride of Christ kind of follows suit. So there's a lot of people when we talk about commitment, committing to the bride of Christ is something that a lot of people struggle with. And whenever those things come together, it just all brings glory to God, because everyone's going to ask, why is your marriage so great? You're like, well, I'm following the example of our Creator and what He's set out to be for marriage. And that's why it's doing so well. And it only just makes God's name better in every sense.
Well, I think in anything we do, we should do it as though we are ambassadors for Jesus. It's the best way I can look at it, because that's who we represent in everything we do. It doesn't matter what we do, whether it's from working in a church, which is an obvious one, or being an IT guy, or working at a school, or being a coach of a sports team. Whatever it is that you're doing, you're an ambassador of Christ. You don't get a break from that. That's not something like, oh, good, I'm doing this now, I don't have to be a Christian. No, that's the commitment we made.
Yeah.
And so when you commit in a godly relationship with your spouse, in that moment, you two together have now become ambassadors for Christ. It's no longer just you, it's you together. And by having a godly marriage, the example that you can set is absolutely amazing. Julio said, we do several things within the church together, from children's church to community group and online hosting. To be honest, I'm amazed when Jess takes over the community group because I go off track quite a bit. That's great. But that there again, that's a thing about commitment and trust in a relationship is the other one picks up where my slack is.
Yeah.
Where I fail, Rhea picks up. I mean, I'm an outgoing person, but I'm kind of a punk sometimes, like I know this about myself. Sometimes I'm just very much this is how it is, and I move on. Sometimes my wife is the one coming up behind me going, here's what he meant by that. It just our spouses, if we've married the right person, they kind of fill in the cracks where we struggle. And then my wife just said, yes, he is. That's why I married her. But it's one of those things of it's so important that trust is there so that we can be that for each other. Back to what we were talking about, making God's name great. Let me ask this question to you guys. We got about 6 or 7 minutes left here. Who benefits the most when we make God's name great? Who benefits the most? Is it God? Is it you? Is it your spouse? Is it the people who see you together? Is it your children? Who benefits the most? Rob, when you look at that question, what do you think?
I think the church benefits the most. I think as a collective, like the church, big C, the collective of us individuals that prioritize Jesus Christ as the Son of the living God benefits the most.
I like that.
It benefits your community. It especially benefits your individual churches, whether that's Catalyst or if you're tuning in, you go to a different church. When God's name becomes great, when your marriage becomes great, it only benefits the church more. And what do you think, John?
I just bring up Daryl's comment. He says everyone benefits more, which I think goes back to what you were saying with the church. And I would echo that comment. I was kind of upset when you answered it because I was like, dang it, I thought I was going to be so smart and get that first. But no, seriously, I think the church really benefits, but I also think that the community benefits from that. And I'm talking about the community outside of the church. I think when God is honored through marriage, the only thing it can do is can make the world around it better. I think when godly couples are happening, you're going to have less children in foster care. And I shouldn't say in foster care, I should say in the foster system. If people followed godly marriage, you wouldn't have as many orphans. If we had godly marriages, you wouldn't have kids who have 15 different grandparents and don't know whose house they're going to be staying in on the weekend. If you have godly families, you're going to have children who grow up in healthy families that are going to have healthy families. You're going to have it's so exponential what godly marriage could do if it became the majority instead of the minority. And I think it's just huge. Dave said, we are ambassadors in this world. We represent God to this foreign country. Our homes will be what people see the most. 100%. Renee Basham says, others. In my nonprofit, we put God first and we're able to continue to expand and grow. It's not my doing, but he's free to reach his hurting people through us. Ringo, what Daryl said. And then Dave, we need to take seriously the one we represent. It's the impact that godly marriage can have on not just the church, but on the world around us is massive. It's massive. And when we choose as couples to make God's name great, it's amazing what God can do in the process of that. And so, Rob, do you have anything else that you can think of that we can add to this?
I think we covered Dave's sermon pretty well. But actually, one thing, somebody made a comment earlier about it doesn't apply. This series doesn't apply to everyone, and I think it does apply to everyone.
I do too.
because you might be single or you might not be married or not married anymore, but you know somebody that is. And you might know couples that aren't doing well. And if you know the right way, you can always point them in the right direction.
Mm-hmm.
You know when you need to step in and be encouraging, because the last thing that we need in the world is a bunch of people that don't understand what a good marriage is, and we are
100%.
down that from one generation to another. And we need to pass down good marriages from one generation to another, or the idea of what a good marriage is.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, thanks so much, man. Appreciate you.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna go back through a couple things real quick, but I will be chatting with you later, my friend.
All right. See ya.
See you, man. All right, real quick, just as I was saying earlier, just so for the people that have logged in later on, community group signups have started. You can sign up online or in person on Sunday. You just need to contact David Kibler for more info on that. And then also, again, the Indestructible Marriage Catalyst Christian Marriage Ministry kickoff. That's a lot of words. Is starting Saturday, February 13th. 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And I want to bring this back up on the screen so you guys can see how you can sign up for this. Just go to catalystchristian.net, click on the register for events tab up in the top right-hand corner. Then this page should pop up. You'll see the Indestructible Marriage tab right there. Click on that, and then right here you can find out all the information about how to sign up, how to be a part of that. Again, we are paying for childcare. It's going to be $5 a child. After 2 children, it just stays at $10. So the most you'll pay for childcare is $10. We are looking for people, though, who are interested in volunteering in children's to give parents the opportunity to be part of this. It will be paid. I just need you to contact me if you're interested in being a part of that, and we will get you plugged in on that for that day. Thank you again, guys, for just being a part of this. Oh, one other thing I do want to say too. I should have said this. Be sure to register one person. Don't register 2 people. You're going to pay twice. It's the cost per couple. So just register yourself. And bring your spouse with you. Don't register yourself, then don't bring your spouse. Bring your spouse. That'd be a good idea. But don't pay twice. Just pay for one registration for the event. This is going to be an awesome opportunity to further this idea of having godly marriages in the church. And we hope that you guys will be a part of that. Have a great day. Thank you for being on the live stream today. God bless. And we'll talk to you again next week.